We're now looking at the Tone Curve tool, a very powerful editing tool for adding contrast as well as doing a little color grading. It is broken down into a few panels. We have a parametric, a point curve, and our RGB, red, green, blue curves. There is also a target tool. If you click on that and click anywhere on the image and drag up or down, it will affect our curve line. So starting off with the parametric curve, this is very similar to the point curve, but it gives you a more gradual effect. And as you can see, we are once again looking at a histogram that is broke down into shadows, darks, lights, and highlights, left to right. This is a snapshot from the histogram up above with the changes we've done to it on the basic sliders. So we have a few points here where we can set our boundaries for our shadows, darks, lights, and highlights. And as we change those, it affects where our points will start for those sections. So if I lift highlights, now my slider's set here, the greatest effect will take there, but I can also move it around. I'm going to right click, reset regions and splits. These are your splits. And the shadows, darks, lights, and highlights are your regions. So to add contrast to an image, you would generally darken your darks and brighten your lights. This is referred to as an S-curve. Right click and reset. You can do the same thing here. Lift your highlights and lights. Drop your darks and shadows. And we have created an S-curve, giving it a decent amount of contrast in the image. I'm going to reset the regions and let's move on over to the point curve. This is very similar, except for it gives you a lot more control. So we already have a black point and a white point, and we can add points by clicking all throughout the curve and doing something similar, but with a lot more control from gradual to how fast those effects take place. There we have a pretty strong S-curve. Let's reset that. You also, in this panel, have some presets for medium contrast and strong contrast. One thing you can do that is popular amongst film and was quite popular on Instagram for a while is the faded black look. We will lift our black so nothing is pure black but more of a gray, and drop our whites. And now we'll add a pretty strong S-curve. And that is meant to mimic some old film, kind of that muted look. So with this image, let's stick with that there. And let's go ahead and shoot for adding the orange teal look to this as well. So we have our red, green, and blue channels. We're going to start with the blue. And I can come over here in the darks and lift up towards the blue part of the graph and pump some blues into our shadows. And then I can go opposite with the highlights, bring in some yellows, and now we have some yellows in our highlights. Let's switch over to the red channel, and we're going to put a point in the middle so we don't affect anything below that point, and put just a little bit of red in there as well. Add a little more yellow. And there we have it, our orange teal look. So the red, green, and blue channels are for color grading. We could also do a global adjustment, click in the middle, drag towards magenta, drag towards green, and affect the picture globally overall. So one thing to consider with this tool is to always use a light hand. You can really just crack an image. You can blow out channels and do all kinds of stuff. But if used with a light touch, it is one of the more powerful tools in Lightroom.